I had one of my buddy's sons working for me at the time. He called me and said, "Hey, everything's missing off the dozer." I said, "What do you mean?" He's like, "The tracks are gone, the rake is gone, the blade's gone, everything's missing off the dozer."
Another week, another episode of the Skid Steer Nation podcast. As always, I'm your host, Ryan Deemer. And I just want to say that this is the favorite part of my week. There's nothing more fulfilling for me in my life than sitting here, getting to talk with other business owners, figuring out where they're at in the weeds, the problems they've had to overcome to get to where they are, and mapping out the future for them to grow their business. So thank all of you who are listening to this. If you have not subscribed, please do now. And keep supporting the podcast so I can keep getting fulfillment and enjoyment from these interviews. Today's show is brought to you by, you guessed it, Skid Steer Nation. If you're in the market for another skid steer attachment, please check out skidsteernation.com. We only partner with American family-owned manufacturers. We've vetted them. Their customer service is rock solid. Their quality is amazing. The products are built to last. We don't sell or represent any products that won't work for you and actually improve your ROI and last you a long time. So check out skidsteernation.com the next time you are looking to add to your attachment fleet for your skid steer. Well, this week we have a guest from down in Conroe, Texas. His name's Cody. He owns a company called C&C Landworks. He started back in 2016. He's a family man. I'm assuming because he's from Texas, he has to love barbecue. And I think we're going to talk about that today. And he's got a really off-the-wall story that I don't even want to preface. I just want to wait until we get to that. So without further ado, Cody, thanks so much for joining us on the show today and being here today.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Man, you're really welcome. I kind of want to jump right into that story, but I'm like, no, we got to wait. We got to like build up to that point there. So you got started in the old dirt work industry back in 2016.
Yes, sir. We started out with a little 35 horse Kubota tractor and slowly worked our way up from there.
So when you got the Kubota, like what attachments did you have with it, or did you grow that aspect of it before you grew the equipment side of it, or what was your strategy or your?
Man, I bought the Kubota, I bought a brush hog with it, box blade, disc, and I went ahead and had a third function put on it and had a grapple with it, just so, we could do brush haul off, stuff like that. And I bought a dump trailer, and that was the start of it.
Yeah.
And it just slowly, over time, I was still doing it part-time, worked full-time for a rental company Monday through Friday, and then evenings and weekends, went out and did tractor work.
So I'm going to assume that because you were working at a rental company, you were maintenance, correct?
Yes, sir.
So, but you're dealing with a lot of, small-time excavation company owners. You're seeing customers come in trying to figure out how to do projects on their own. Was that what sparked the desire to like, hey, I'm going to go out and start something and help these people myself?
Man, I always had the desire. I grew up around equipment. My grandpa was a pipeliner. Even back in the days, he would take me out with him when he could on job sites, and I'd ride with him on equipment while he was filling in pipelines and, grade work, whatever he needed to do. And then family had a farm down in Port Lavaca. I always used to go down there and ride with him on the equipment when they would do harvest and everything else.
Okay.
So I just, you grow up around it and it's something you want to do.
Yeah. What was I find that we think about decisions. We say it took us a year to make a decision. In reality, we thought about it for a year. It takes a moment to make a decision. Like, what was that moment for you to say, I'm buying a tractor and these attachments, and I'm going to start doing some work to generate revenue?
I just kept getting asked to do it, and I would rent something here and there. And then it got to where I was renting a tractor every weekend. Like the rental company just knew, hey, he's going to be needing it this weekend. So we already got it reserved for him. And I finally just went down to Kubota, and we had a connection with a Kubota dealer down here. And the funny part is we had looked at one a couple of years ago, and the Kubota dealer kind of laughed me off. He had just said, "Oh, you're a little out of your league right now." And I was like, okay. And went on about my business and started renting. And then next thing you know, we're down there buying it. And he was like, when I walked in there, at first they were like, "Oh, can you afford it?" And I'm like, "That's no problem." I was like, "I have the work for it." So,
Yeah.
Once you bite it off, it's yours. It's different than renting for sure.
Yeah. I love that. Just to touch on this, I love that when he discredited you, you didn't go question whether your path was the right path for you. You just said, okay, I got a few more building blocks to build before I buy my own. And you just kind of use that as motivation to like say, hey, I'm going to go find some more work. I'm going to rent some equipment. But you didn't let it derail you.
No, and I've actually become friends with the Kubota dealer here now with the sales rep in the office. He's a great guy.
And now they probably beg you to come buy skid steers from him.
And yeah, and that was the first skid steer I bought right after I bought that tractor. I bought one other tractor, and then I ended up buying a Kubota skid steer from him that was used, but he had a good deal on it.
Yeah.
And I didn't even get it right at 1,000 hours on it. The motor blew on it. And they were like, "Oh, it's out of warranty. We can't warranty it." But coming from the service background, I knew how to get around that to get it to where they could warranty it.
Oh,
And
nice.
it took a couple steps, but they ended up warrantying it and putting a motor in it.
Very nice. Very nice. So C&C Landworks, what's the backstory of the name?
We were trying to figure it out, and I was talking to one of my friends who has a construction company, and he was throwing off the wall preferred names at me. And we were laughing about it. And then I finally just said one day, I was like, C&C would be good because my wife's name is Caitlin. My name is Cody.
Okay.
So, we just did basically Caitlin and Cody's Landworks. So we did C&C.
I love it. The family aspect of that. Very cool. And you guys have one small child, is that correct? Or am I?
Yes, sir. Man, it took us 10 years of trying. We had to do fertility treatments and everything. And we had her last year. And that's baby Luna.
Oh, congratulations, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, it seems like every part of your life you got to be a little persistent in, huh?
Yes, sir. He's got to work for everything. Nothing comes easy.
Yeah, you got to work. Everything comes easy. You're right. In fact, I was reading through some of the stuff. Like we asked the guests a couple questions so we get a little feel for them. So when we get on the call, we know what to talk about. And you kind of talked about like always know that some shit's going to come your way. It's never going to be rainbows and butterflies every day.
Yes, sir. Yeah, you never know what to expect. Nothing's ever safe. Nothing's ever steady. One day you may be doing great. You may have a $20,000 week, which is great. Next week, you may be sitting at the house twiddling your thumbs watching the rain fall.
Yeah.
You just never know what's going to happen.
That stuck out to me when I was reading through all that stuff, just for the fact that I'm personally in a moment right now where I'm like doing some self-discovery work on myself, reading some books. And like one of the authors that I'm reading about was like, everything in the universe must balance out.
Yes, sir.
Like for every positive, there's a negative, whether you look at the weather or atoms and neutrons or matter, how that's made, we are no different. So when we get elated in happiness, sadness has to enter our life to balance it out. Like we can't always ride the wave. Like the wave comes and goes, and we got to drop with the wave and ride with the wave. And listening to that and kind of digging into and understanding that was like, oh, when you can start being grateful for the crap that comes your way, you handle it better. Life balances out. The highs aren't quite as high. The lows are definitely not as low. But just know that it's coming.
You just have to take it with a grain of salt when it does come.
Yeah.
It's one of those things.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I'm going to go a little off the wall here. Like, all right, so now I'll stay on track. So C&C Landworks, you got the tractor, you've been doing some projects and all of that. And then you kind of get into a zone where grading becomes your primary service that you get really good at and get known for in your area. Walk us through how you either selected grading or how grading selected you.
Well, I really wanted to get into mulching, and I reached out to one of the guys that was over here that works along the, he's one of the big mulchers over here. I was trying to ask questions, and he told me that I was just out of my league, that I needed to let the big dogs run the game. And I stepped back and I bought a little brush cutter, and we would do a little brush cutting, but I just got the niche for doing grade work. There's a couple new neighborhoods that went in around us less than 5 minutes from my house. And everybody was needing work done in their 1 acre lots. So we'd go in, we'd clear out the 1 acre lot and then come in and regrade everything, get the drainage right. And that's basically where, we started getting into it, was because I grew a reputation. We ran 3 other contractors out of that neighborhood by the time we were done. Because they weren't doing the quality of work that we could get down. So we had it down to 3 days. We'd have the 1 acre lot. We'd take like either 305 or 308. We'd have everything cleared, stacked, burned, raked, and leveled. And we'd have it done in 3 days, which, I mean, you look at a big contractor that's got big equipment, that's nothing, that's slow. But for little residential lots, that's really not that bad.
No, not bad at all. And like those big guys can't even mobilize and make a profit for those 1 acre.
Yeah. And that's that's kind of where we got our niche, was we just like doing the smaller stuff.
Yeah.
And, later on the opportunity came on and we started trying to do the bigger stuff, and it didn't work out. Well, I'm sure we'll get to that in a couple minutes, but we stepped back down, and that's where we're at now, is back to the smaller stuff.
Yeah. And then do you foresee yourself like, are you really grateful that you're in the smaller stuff and this is exactly where you want to be? Or is it more like, hey, we tried it, that approach didn't work. Let's go back, regroup, build a new plan, and try it again in the future?
Man, I don't know. I'm mixed about it because of everything that went on. A part of me, I'm happy where we're at, but at the same time, I do miss doing some of the bigger stuff. We did quite a few ponds in the last couple of years. We did a couple bigger clearings, and it's fun and it's a different aspect because at the end of the day, when you do stuff for the residential work, you may move your machine 5 times a day. And then at the end of the day, you're having to go chase down 5 customers to get paid. When we were on some of the bigger jobs, you're there for weeks on end. And that's, it's a whole different class. But then some of the bigger jobs, you got to look at payment terms. They may be 60-day paid. So you have to be able to ride out, and can't count on them actually holding up their end of the deal and paying on time.
Yeah. That's where cash flow gets to be key for you guys.
Yes, sir. 100%.
Yeah, we talked to a guy a couple of weeks ago, and like he just had a great philosophy. He's like, 20% of every job goes into a savings account because I know there's a day coming that whether it be repair or covering operation costs while you're waiting for payment, like you're going to need it.
And I had a great nest egg built up in last year. It was one of those years we lost 90% of it, and I'm back to trying to build it up again. It's just one of those things. You have good years, you have bad years. Last year wasn't a good year.
But imagine if you wouldn't have been proactive and had that nest egg, like you'd probably be out of business and working back at the rental company.
Oh, 100%. And I still have friends at the rental company, man. They still call me and want me to come back to work for them all the time. And I'm just like, I couldn't do it. After being my own boss for so many years, I just couldn't go backwards.
Yeah. So have you had to work for anyone else at all during the 7-year stretch, or have you just been like, nope, I'm in?
Man, that's the thing is I've got quite a few contractors that I'm friends with, and a lot of them are bigger than me. So when they get small, great jobs or something, a lot of them will send them my way, And then we've had weeks that I just, the phone doesn't ring. You don't have a lot of work lined up. You get caught up, and then you're sitting at the house and you're like, man, I still like to be doing something. And I have a couple people that if I call them and I say, hey, I need some work today, they'll put me on one of their machines running, maybe a dozer, maybe an excavator. It's been an off-road truck before. I mean,
Gotcha.
just something. I'm not scared to go work for somebody else.
Yeah.
And, even the guy that I have working with me, his name's Todd. He's a great person. He's a blessing to our business. He's one of those people, if something gets messed up, you don't know about it. He just fixes it and it's fixed right and you don't have to worry about it. And then at the end of the day, if it's something like a hose blew or something that, wasn't his fault, he'll just give you the receipt and say, hey, just add it to my paycheck later on. He's just one of those people, man.
Wow. How did you find, I'm sorry, did you say Todd or Tom? Todd. How did you find Todd, or how did you meet him?
Man, when I first got out of high school, we were building vacuum trucks for the pipelines, for the safe dig. And Todd was, I guess he was like the manager for the company that we were working for. And he was over me. And for the longest time, I thought he hated me. And, the company ended up going bankrupt and they were going out of business and we went our separate ways. And then over the years, we had just stayed in contact with each other. And, the last 2 or 3 years, he was with me here and there when I needed him. I bought a little dump truck and he has a CDL. So if I needed the dump truck ran or needed something done, Todd would go out there and do it. Or if we had a bigger job, he would go out there and help me do it. And then he would do his own thing on the side. And, it worked out. And then this year, it's just everything kicked off and we were able to bring him on full time. And he's running the dump truck about 6 days a week for me.
That's awesome. That's really cool. So, but like when you went to go hire him or have him start helping you, did you know that you would mesh that well with him and that he was that type of person? Or you just
the first day, I think one of the first jobs we did was one of the smaller clearings. And we got into that neighborhood and I ended up getting like 8 lots in a row. And they were all like, we were bouncing from lot to lot to lot. So I wanted to be able to have, somebody where we could stay one lot ahead. Somebody was going through underbrush and the other guy was going back laying down trees, where we were bouncing back and forth. So we were always one step ahead where one machine's not working one day. And, I asked him to help me and everything meshed real good. And, we never looked back. We just been going from there.
So do you think it's like kind of like blind luck, or was it strategic that you asked him to help you?
I think it was strategic, but it was also blind luck. You don't get lucky to where you have somebody that really truthfully cares for your business and cares for your dollar that you make. I mean, there's been times that I've been short on overhead for jobs, like especially in the last year. And Todd's one of those people. He's just like, hey, what do we need to do to be able to get the job done? And he pulls money out of his pocket to offer it.
Wow. Yeah, you're blessed then. I mean, that's like ownership mentality in an employee.
Yes, sir.
So yeah, hang on to them.
I want to, that's the biggest thing. You got to treat your employees as good as you would treat like your family.
Yeah, and you also got to invest in them. Like, and I don't just mean like training for work and stuff, but like invest them to help them in their personal life and whatever area it is.
Man, it's like every weekend we end up at his house. He has a pool. We'll end up at his house in the pool, or they'll end up over here. We'll go to the deer lease. Every weekend we end up spending time with his family too. So
that's so cool, man.
It's awesome.
So you are in Texas. Now you're talking about hanging out with friends and going and doing things. How often do you guys hit a barbecue joint?
Man, there's a couple good ones here in Conroe. One is new and it's in Montgomery. It's about an hour from my house, but we tried it the other day and it was probably some of the best barbecue I've had.
So what makes Texas barbecue that good?
And I don't even know how to say it. I'm a person that good barbecue doesn't need sauce. If you have good barbecue, you don't need sauce to cover, to give you the flavor. You have it seasoned right. You've got the smoke right. You have flavor throughout the meat. And it's not dried out or anything like that. I've had horrible brisket before where you bite into it and you're like, okay, I need barbecue sauce. Good barbecue doesn't need sauce.
Okay. See, I'm in Illinois, man. Like I just assume if it's called barbecue, it's got to have a sauce on it.
No. And it's one of the things that I love to do is I love to barbecue.
Okay. So do you have like your own setup and all that at the house?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Is it like a legitimate, like people walk up and go, holy crap, he's serious about barbecue?
No, it ain't nothing fancy. I mean, I've got a wood burning pit that was my grandpa's. My grandpa used to do competition cooks, and my father-in-law does competition cooks. So, it's one of those things that between the three of us, my grandpa's passed away, but between the three of us, every one of us loved to cook.
Okay. So
and
there's a bunch of family secrets running around in your head on how to make good barbecue.
Yes, sir, for sure. And then I have the pit boss, like one of the pellet smokers, just for if I want to throw a slab of ribs on or something. It's like an easy bake oven, man. You throw it on and you can let it smoke. And, you don't get quite the same flavor of the bark that you would a wood burner, but, it's still great. And it's easy going. You don't have to maintain it. So if you're busy doing something out the house, working on equipment, watching the kid, whatever, you can just turn it on and you can monitor it from your phone.
It's amazing how technology has creeped into literally every area of our life. If you had told me back in early 2000s I'd own a grill that I could control from my phone, I would have laughed at you.
Yes, sir. My grandpa, he'd be rolling over in his grave if he knew I cooked more on my pit boss than I do on his old smoker.
Yeah, I bet he would, man. They had a specific way of doing it, and they wanted to stay true to it.
Yes, sir.
Oh, all right. So back to business here at hand, man. So you're growing the business. Todd comes on to work for you. You guys are clicking residential lots, 1 acre size. You start growing. You decide to cut your teeth on some larger products. Do you invest in bigger equipment first, or do you go line the work up first? What was your process?
So I was offered to come in and I had a couple friends that were doing some work on it was right next to a water park. It was a 120 acre tract. It had been logged. They had to go through and stump it. And they invited me to come out and, bring a machine out. And I had just bought a dozer because I was trying to step up. I bought a Komatsu D39. It was used. It was a cheaper machine, but it was a great machine. It was low hours. And, man, the whole time we had that job, we got out there, I rented a 210 Sandy. And, man, that thing was a turd. I had nothing good to say about it. I mean, the rental company was out there once a week, if not every day, working on it. And finally, we went through 3 Sandies in less than a month, and they swapped it out for the third time, and they gave me a link belt. And that link belt stuck with us for over 6 or 8 months, just bouncing between jobs.
Yeah.
But we got out there, we rented the link belt, and then the dozer, it had some gremlins in it with the emissions. And everybody's like, delete it, delete it, delete it. But with like Komatsu, they won't work on it if it's deleted.
Right.
So you lose part of your customer service. And my Komatsu dealer, man, their customer service is absolutely awesome. I mean, they had the cab out there. They had the tracks torn off of the machine one day. I mean, they had the motor on the ground one day out there trying to figure out because they had it narrowed down to like an electrical glitch in the emission system. And it just kept throwing it into regen mode and it would shut it down because it would think the emissions was full.
I feel like you need to give like a legit shout out to this dealer. So any of the boys in Texas listen to this know that they're a good dealer to work with.
Man, it was Waukesha Pierce out of Tomball, Texas. They were absolutely awesome. I mean, I have nothing but great things to say about them. And at the end, they finally they couldn't figure out what to do with the machine. And they ended up sending a rollback out there. They winched it up on the rollback and they handed me a check and went on about their way.
Wow.
They bought the machine back 100%.
That's rare. I'm a firm believer that the brand to me means less than the service of the local dealer.
And that's the thing is like, you know, I was the same way. Everybody, a lot of people preach brand. I'm only going to buy a brand. And my cat dealer here, man, I've had 4 cat machines now.
So are you Holt or Mustang country?
Mustang.
Mustang.
And Mustang has the absolute worst customer service. The sales department is great. My sales rep is awesome. I mean, we've had our issues before, but, you know, at the end of the day, he comes through and he was absolutely awesome. But when it came to the service side, it was a joke. And that's the biggest thing is you got to be able to buy equipment where your customer support is there. And, you know, I've backed away now. I'll probably never buy another cat from Mustang again because the customer support just isn't there.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. Unfortunate. Yeah. I mean, you see that all across the country, like, you know, like pick any manufacturer, whether it be John Deere, Tack, Case, Cat, like one area, the dealers just lights out awesome. And then another area, they're mediocre, and somewhere else they can be terrible. And so to me, I've always said, if you're getting ready to buy more equipment, go interview the dealers, go get a good feel for the service department and pick equipment based on that.
See, I went through after I got rid of the Kubota skid steer, I traded it in on a cat. And then I just decided the cat wasn't big enough, so I tried out a 333 John Deere. And I had a friend that was at one of the ag dealers over here, and he sold me the 333, but it had gremlins in it as well. And they couldn't keep it going. And then parts were like 8 months back ordered on it because it popped a drive motor.
Was this during COVID?
Yes, sir.
I don't care what manufacturer, everybody was 8 months back on parts. So just as want to clarify real quick.
And that's when we decided to try some bigger projects because I ordered a 289 cat. We traded the John Deere in, and I was like, we're going to go with that 289. And until it gets here, you know, we're going to start pushing some of the bigger projects because we had the dozer. I didn't know at the time the dozer had issues. So we stepped up and I bought that 289, and it took them 4 months to get it, I guess. And that was probably the worst machine I've ever owned. Day one, I got it. You took a scoop of dirt in the bucket, got a full bucket load of dirt. It wouldn't lift it up to load a dump truck. It would just kill the machine trying to lift it. And they ended up coming at it, had like 6 hours on it. And they came out and the hydraulic pump was bad. And it had trashed the whole hydraulic system.
Wow. You're having a good run of bad luck during this stretch of your business.
Yes, sir. It was probably a year and a half, almost 2 years straight of just pure bad luck.
Yeah.
I mean, there was nothing great to say about it, really, other than we had our daughter.
What did you do on a morning basis to get out of bed and go put your best foot forward every day during that stretch?
Man, it was one of those things that, you know, for one, we had the baby on the way, and that was encouragement right there. You know, it was something to look forward to. Because my whole thing is when I grew up, you know, my grandparents were decent. My mom and dad didn't really have much, and I told my wife, I said, I want to be able to change that for our future, for our kids. So at the end of the day, you know, when we figured out that she was pregnant and we got everything to actually work out, I had something to want to push forward because I want to be able to eventually one day hand the business to her or give her the opportunity if she wants it, you know.
Yep.
And that's the whole point of doing everything we've done.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I feel like you got to have some sort of a drive more than just the money aspect of it to be really successful in business.
Yeah. So we got the 289. They had it for 3 months. They sent it back to me. It didn't last a day. And they blew another hydraulic pump. And service tech got out here and he started looking at it and pulled it all apart. They didn't even have a hydraulic filter back in it. Like the filter cartridge is empty. And it just, you know, if there would have been a filter, we probably could have saved the second hydraulic system.
Right.
And it went back and forth and it drug out for over a year. And finally, I just ended up selling the machine. Cat gave me a buyback offer on it. They didn't even offer to pay me what I paid for it. I ended up I sold it back to him, but I paid the difference out of pocket just to get rid of it.
Yeah.
And my John Deere sales rep out of Doggett down here, his name is Eric Lewis. And man, he's one of the awesome people, but he only sells the big iron. So he got me in touch with Edgar, which Edgar does his compact equipment. And they had a 333 there that somebody had canceled on, and they offered it to me, and I snatched it up. And that's the machine we're running right now.
So you're still running that today. Very nice, man. Very nice. Yeah. So we also talk about like the biggest setbacks you've had in your business and like what you did to overcome them and like how it affected your business. And I started reading the answer that you provided and I was like, did I just read that correct? You were literally on a job site and went back to the job site one morning and your dozer was stripped.
Yes, sir. We got, me and my wife were looking at houses, and we were on it was like 100-acre clearing, and it was somebody that we knew's contract, and they gave us a back section of it. And the section we were on was probably 30 acres. I mean, we were over a mile back off the road. We had to cross 3 creeks to get back there. I mean, it wasn't easy to get back there. It was for a new development. And I had one of my buddy's sons working for me at the time, just, because it was the summer, he wanted some work. And he called me and said, "Hey, everything's missing off the dozer." I said, "What do you mean?" He's like, "The tracks are gone, the rake is gone, the blade's gone, everything's missing off the dozer." And I'm like, "Oh, hold on, you're kidding me, right?" Because we had just bought it was a brand new Cat D3. I mean, it was 3 weeks old. We had already put 100 hours on it, and we hadn't had it 3 weeks. Like, it was literally, the paint wasn't wore off the blade yet.
Yeah. So what did that do to your business? Like, did you have to change anything that you currently did it, or like, did you have to scramble for cash to replace this stuff? Like, where did that put you as an owner?
Well, I started out, I filed the insurance claim, we filed the police report, still under investigation, but we filed the insurance claim, and the insurance company just was like instantly, "Oh, it's fraud." And we had to quit. I was like, "Why are y'all saying it's fraud?" To come to find out, they hadn't even wrote the policy yet. That the paperwork, they had already took a 5-year premium in full, but the paperwork had never been turned into the office for them to write the policy. So the dozer wasn't insured, but since they had already took the premium, it was covered. They had it covered.
Yeah.
But it's still a battle today. It's tied up. It's a long, drawn out battle.
And I feel like you and I could talk for an hour about that, but nothing's going to get solved by us discussing it for you on your end,
I ended up hiring an attorney, and we're in a battle with that. He got a partial payment on it, but they didn't even cover the full amount for the repairs. So we were 8 months at this point by the time they cover partial amount for the repairs. And then I had to come out, and I've been paying the note for 8 months, not being able to use it. We rented a dozer from Cat here, in Conroe, and that thing was a turd.
So, but again, like you're getting hit left and right with setbacks, expenses.
Yes, sir. I mean, we never missed a note. That's the thing, is I wanted to take care of my credit, because, if I wanted to be able to buy something else, or if they ended up totaling out or whatever they ended up finally doing, I needed to be able to make sure that I took care of the credit on my part to where we could recover.
Yep.
And that's the big thing, is you got to have good credit.
No, it definitely plays a part in that.
But it completely depleted my cash flow. I mean, we had a decent nest egg put up, and over the time, and then I ended up having to pay for all the repairs out of pocket, well, at least 50% of them out of pocket, and that finished off. And then at the point of that, I lost a lot of the dozer work we had, so I just ended up, my wife's old boss said that they were interested in it, and I ended up having to sell it off just to get rid of it, to be able to stay afloat.
Yep.
And we had bought a 160 when we were on the job, a 160 John Deere. And I kept the John Deere, and we moved on, and I did a bunch of burning. I have another friend that they have the contract for the air burners, and they do all the commercial burning around here.
Okay.
And he was like, "Man, I'll put you out burning with that 160. You can sit there and feed a fire and work fire all day." And finally we got into wet season, and we couldn't really burn. It got to where we were working in 3 foot of water trying to work on the fire, and he just couldn't do it. And, we tried to do a couple other things with the 160, but it was either sink or swim, and it's hard to push a big machine without something to pair with it. If we were going to do a dirt project or a pond or something, without being able to pair another machine with it, it was hard to push it. So we just ended up selling it. And that's, like I say, we bought that 333, and that's back, we grew up, but we had to step back down smaller.
Yeah. So, and what I hear from this is a lot of learning experiences.
Very much so.
So now you can get back to where your roots are. You know what you're good at. You can stay in your lane. You can deliver a fantastic product to your clients, both residential and commercial.
And it
But
took us
you can
maybe
also
1 or 2 months of telling everybody that we were back, doing smaller stuff that I actually had a machining in. And then we've been staying, it's hit and miss. I mean, some days we don't have much, but, we've been staying decently busy.
Yeah. But yeah, it gives you a chance to like regroup, reassess, replan, whether it be for staying in this niche and expanding that, staying where you're at, or trying to get back into the big equipment again, the big iron.
And see, one of the big lifesavers is 2 years ago, I bought a dump truck. I just bought a little single axle dump truck for my jobs. We were still doing some of the grade work, and I got tired of waiting on some of the other people to bring me dirt. It was unreliable. You'd order something that may show up, it may not. You may get 2 loads today and 10 loads tomorrow, and then the other 20 you need maybe 3 weeks from now. And, I just got tired of playing that game. So I bought me a little single axle dump truck for some of the residential work. And earlier this year, when we were in the midst of everything trying to get past the dozer, I had a mulch yard get in contact with me, and man, that mulch yard, it's been saving grace because that dump truck, and they do 7-8 loads a day during the busy season, and they do 6 days a week.
Yeah.
So that was saving grace, to have a little bit of something to fall back on that was just sitting there.
Mm-hmm. Very nice, man. So after all this experiences, have you taken a break and like taken a breath and found a way to relax and like regroup and recenter? Or are you still pulled in 9 directions trying to figure out what you're going to do tomorrow?
Man, like I said, we went back to the skid steer right now. Like I said earlier, I wanted to get into mulching, and I was told no. I bought a mulching head with this 333, and we've done a little bit of mulch work with it, and it's something that I've bid quite a few jobs for it. If it works out, it works out. If it doesn't, I still do grade work every day.
Yeah.
But we got into another new neighborhood over here, and that's slowly kicking off. The last 2 weeks we've probably done 5 or 6 lots in there, cleared, graded, got everything done, did pads for buildings, just whatever have you. And that's another thing. You never know what's going to happen. That 333, man, we had it buried up over the top of the tracks the other day. It's just one of those things,
Yeah.
You look, like we said earlier, you never know what's going to happen. You have to be prepared for everything.
Yep, you sure do. So are you getting most of your work just through word of mouth and the contacts in town, or are you having to put any effort into external marketing at all?
I've never really advertised too much. I mean, I've been asked a couple of times to sponsor like a local baseball field or something, and they'll put a sign on the outfield wall. And I've done that. I mean, that's great advertisement. It's community support. People look at that. But I've never really gotten anything off.
No, and
I've never
honestly,
had any
it's community
calls.
support. It's
we sponsored a couple cook-offs. I sponsored my buddy. He has a monster truck. We sponsor his race team. If he does dirt work or if he needs a track done and he's in Texas, and we do all the dirt work for him and everything. It's one of those things that we try to do different things, but 90% of my references is word of mouth. If you go through, you leave people a good product, and I've learned you don't want to be the cheapest guy around, but you don't want to be the most expensive. In the area that we're in, there's a lot of people that are, man, I don't know how they take care of equipment because they're drowning because they're so cheap.
Yeah. I'm a firm believer in that too. Like, there's no value in being the cheapest guy. If you're competing on price, you can only race to zero.
Yes, sir.
Like that's
the thing is, I won't. I'll give a price, and that's it. If you want it, great. If you don't, oh well. It didn't. No harm done if you want to go with the cheaper guy. And then there's been several times that they've gone with the cheaper guy, and then 3 or 4 weeks later, they're calling you back to come and try to fix it.
Yeah. But I do have a different mindset than you as far as being the most expensive guy. Like if you end up being the most expensive guy, I'm more than okay with that. As long as you're providing so much value that the middle price guy can't compete with you.
Yes, sir.
You got to separate yourself with the value you provide the customer.
And like I say, I guess I'm more of the middleman on a lot of the stuff that we do. And bidding is always hard. You bid some, and there's been times we've lost money. Bidding is always one of those things that's hard to do.
Yeah.
You win some, you lose some, but we try to 90% of the time be on the winning side.
Yeah. And absolutely. Have you developed like a process that you try to follow or a checklist that you use for every time you have to go bid a project?
Depends on what we're doing. I've gotten pretty good about figuring out, if it's a small clearing, we can have it done in 2 days, or something like that. I try to figure out how many days we're going to be there. And that helps tremendously because once you come up with a price per day for your machine, it helps you figure out where you need to be price wise. And then if you can tell that there's going to be some issues that you may overcome, add a little extra.
Mm-hmm.
because, you never know. I'm one of those people that, okay, we're going to do a 15 load pad for a shop for somebody. I'm going to bid it for 20 loads. And then if we come back at 15, great, because like the other day, the job we were on, we got stuck. We ran 5 loads over. We ended up having to excavate all that out with the skid steer because that was dead center of a building pad. So it's better to have extra, a little bit of extra material factored on there is something I've learned. And then if you come up, oh, cool, we bid it for 15 loads, we did it in 10.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. I'll take the extra 5 off. I'll do that for the customers. And it earns respect because they realize that, hey, he's not out trying to take advantage of me. He just did it, to cover himself.
Yeah. And then I found like a lot of guys, especially now that you're getting into the mulching game, like they've got a little bit more detailed questions that they ask themselves. Is like, how easy of access is it? What's the terrain inside of that? How hilly and flat? Is there ravines? Is it mostly softwood? Is it hardwoods? Because an acre of pines versus an acre of oaks, it's not the same thing.
No, 100%.
So like you got to go through like that mental checklist. And if you don't have a mental checklist, make a written checklist until it becomes mental of like all those things that could come up on those projects, and then make one for grading, make one for site prep. Just like, like we're in Illinois. Is it going to be sandy, mud, or clay?
Yes,
like we got to figure but if you don't think about any of that stuff in advance, that's when it bites you in the ass.
See, if you cross the freeway here, you go from hard, dry ground to swampland.
Yeah.
We're right on the edge of, basically one side of the county is dry and, you're changing basically geography. It changes over our county.
Mm-hmm.
So one side of the county is dry and it's mostly pines. And then you start getting into the other side and it's all swampland.
Yeah. So you just got to be cognizant of that when you do your bidding. You just kind of, and really, there's no magic formula to that. It's just you figuring out your operating cost per hour.
Yes, sir.
Top and bottom, every expense.
And then what you need to make,
And then getting good of like, hey, that takes me X amount of time to mulch this type of material for this many 100 feet. And then I can start calculating all that.
Yes, sir.
So very good,
and
man.
That's one of those things for the mulching that I'm still having to learn. We haven't had it too long. We've only had it 2 or 3 months, and I haven't done a whole lot with it. I mean, when we first got it, I took it out to my deer lease and cleaned up my deer lease just so I could figure out what we could do in a day.
Yeah.
Because my deer lease has a little bit of everything on it.
Mm-hmm.
So we opened up a spot out there just to figure out, what we could and couldn't do.
Yep. Did you take notes and all that, or is it all just in your head?
It's in my head.
I would highly recommend put some pen to paper with all that and do that for every job for the next 20 jobs, because then you'll be thinking about it, you'll be writing it, and then you'll be reviewing it. So you're going to see that information 3 times and it's going to be able to stick, and you're not going to forget little details, and your bidding process will enhance faster.
Yes, sir.
That's my 2 cents.
No, I appreciate it, man. I'm always willing to take advice.
Yeah, because there's a lot of things I think about, like, oh, I got to remember that next time I do that. And then I never do. So I find that just writing it down, it just gives me an extra chance to cement it in my head. And then I can always review that. So you can take your notebook of your mulching notebook and just leave it in the skid steer. And when you're done mulching, just write some notes in it and just leave it in the skid steer. So it's always there with you.
Yes, sir.
And you'll just find out the efficiencies that you have, the issues that you run into, things that you thought you saw, but you didn't, or vice versa. And then Hazel's making her appearance on the podcast. The FedEx guy must be here delivering stuff.
You're fine. Mine, one's asleep over here and one's asleep at my feet right now.
Yeah, so. we did an in-person podcast once where like we had a guy come to the house. We actually interviewed together, and like right in the middle of the podcast, she just like leaped out of nowhere and jumped in his lap. It was pretty awesome. But yeah, so getting back on track. So you're primarily word of mouth. You're not doing much for marketing. Do you have a contingency plan on how to go generate business if the word of mouth slows down, or do you just sit and wait?
Man, I'll try to post on Facebook whenever we do work. I'll take a lot of pictures. We have a business page on our Facebook, and I try to post pictures of that. And, a lot of the word of mouth is people on Facebook too, because I have so many customers that are on our Facebook page. And then if I post something on the business page, they'll share it and they'll say, hey, this guy did work for me. He did great work. So that's always another thing that tries to help me is, the Facebook page helps. I get a lot of, and then it's one of those things that, like there's I love Conroe page here, and people are always posting looking for stuff. Oh, I need trash hauled off, something like that. I don't mess with that. But then when you get somebody that gets, oh, we need dirt work done, man, I'll probably have 20 tags on a post now.
Yeah. And it's just become being known in your area as the authority for the service you provide. Like,
Yes, sir.
absolutely. And I will say, I looked at your Facebook page, and I think one thing that really stood out to me, there's actually two things. You have some really high quality, easy to follow photos. Like like the way you post your photos tells a good story. So if you're not in the excavation industry, you can actually see what you did.
Before and after is everything, man. You can't just go out and do a job and then take a picture and say, "Oh, here it is."
Yeah,
You got to show the process of it.
And you do a good job of showing that story, that process of the project. And I want to just touch base on that real quick too. When you do take your before and after photos, like it's extremely important. Like have the camera level the same for both. So if you hold it above your head, take the after above your head. If you hold it at your chest, take the after at your chest. And the other thing, find a landmark that's not leaving. Same spot of both photos, because I can't tell you how many times people do a driveway photo and they are standing on the left side back at the main road. And then they take the second photo standing at the house on the right side, shooting towards the main road. And you're like, is that even the same driveway?
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't tell a story.
Get lost.
People, yeah. And if you're not in the industry, they're not going to follow it.
Yes, sir.
So having good stories and all that. And then I really love that a majority of your posts aren't selling. So a majority of your posts, you're just talking about the privilege and honor of getting to work for this person. We got to build this pad for them. And then like
every now and then, if you want a quote for it, at the end, give us a call.
But I noticed you don't do that on all of them. Like you'll sprinkle it in.
Yes, sir.
Like, and that's awesome. But like, it's not like every post is like, hire me. I
don't want to be one of those guys, like you go to a car lot and then they're trying to sell you a truck to the point where they're trying to beat, just shove it down your throat.
Yeah.
I don't want to be one of those people. It's one of those things I hate. So I try not to do it.
No, and you do a really good job of that. Yeah, and I just think the only, whether it's it's not asked, but my 2 cents on this is that some of your posts, I think you could be a little more detailed on the process and what you do step by step, and almost turn it into like an educational post for land and homeowners.
Okay,
because even if they don't hire you, then they'll at least know, oh, are you going to do this? Are you going to core the road out? Are you going to grade it for water slopage? Are you going to put a crown in the gravel when you put it back in? And like, how do we feather the material out at the main roadway? And what do we do with the culvert? Even if they don't hire you, like you're educating your customers on what a proper road is or driveway is for their property.
Yes, sir.
And the more you educate, the more you get known as the authority of the service in your area.
Okay. That's good advice.
Yeah. Speaking of Facebook, I saw a post that you had shared, and as a business owner, it got me chuckling. But you've got a picture of like a guy sleeping like a baby in bed, and right below it says an entrepreneur sleeping, and the guy's like wide open eyes, like with 87 million thoughts running through his head, guilty for feeling like he should be asleep. Do you feel like that a lot?
Every day.
Every day? Why do you feel that way?
Man, you can never stop thinking of what you can do better. Oh, I forgot to call that customer back or something. I'll be laying there 2:00 in the morning, and then it's like you're dreaming about something, it could be off the wall. And the next thing you know, boom, that person's face pops into your head. And you're like, what? And the next thing you know, it clicks. Oh, I forgot to call them back, or I forgot to send a quote. And, it never ends.
Yeah.
Your mind's always about what you can do better.
And it is. But it's also important to be able to shut it off.
And that's the hardest thing to do. That's one of those things that, like, I love to go hunting. We go hunting all the time. Right now, it's been too hot to go hunting. I'm not going to go sit in a deer stand to shoot pigs in 110-degree weather.
Right.
But, we love to go hunting and stuff. And that's one of those things that you can break away. And when I get out to my deer lease, I don't have cell service. So, it's not like people are sitting there calling you and bugging you. And one thing is, you're never off. And I hate to say this, but I hate it when you get a customer that calls you at 10 p.m. at night, wanting you to come do a quote or, asking questions. Man, at the end of the day, yeah, it's our business. But, at the end of the day, you have to realize that we have lives too, other than our business, And my wife gets mad at me because I'm always on the phone.
Yeah. We were just talking about this with a guy on a different show, and he just finally set a boundary. So like if people texted him after a certain time in the evening or on the weekends that he was doing family time, he would simply write back, I saw your message. I'll get back to you tomorrow morning. I'll get back with you on Monday.
Well, that's probably something I need to do that make my wife happier. I promise you that.
But I mean, it's okay to like take a moment to like say, hey, I saw that. I'm going to respond to you, but I'm also going to let you know we're not talking about it today or tonight.
Yes, sir.
I got you tomorrow morning.
Yes, sir.
Because you've got to create some sort of a boundary for yourself too. Like we work to enhance our life, not for it to become our life.
Yes, sir.
And we typically fall into that
true.
trap where it becomes our life. And I did it. I lived it I was working 14 hours a day. I fucking loved every minute of it. My personal life was a disaster.
We drive by stuff and I look at it and my wife gets annoyed because it's like you look at another good job getting done, you drive by and you're just like, man, that looks like crap.
Yeah.
Or, and then there's other stuff we drive by and man, that looks great, and you sit there and wonder, then you start talking about how they do it. And it's like, that's all you talk about then, your work becomes your life.
Yeah, no, and it does. But like for me personally, for the internal battle that you're having, some things that I've incorporated over the last 10 years that have helped me separate time personally and professionally. So one of the things is the framework of having a daily routine, like have a morning routine and have an evening routine. So like for me, I will not do anything work related until at least 8 a.m. and preferably 9 a.m.
We're normally up and out the door by 5:30ish, 6 o'clock.
So then your routine would be different than mine, right?
Yes,
like my routine, like my business runs during normal business hours. So, but for me, I like to get up early. I like to drink a bunch of water, have some peace and quiet, let my mind open up, maybe go get a workout in. I like to read a little bit in a book. Most days I try to journal if I can remember to do it. But like I want to get myself primed for a really good day. And more importantly, at nighttime, man, get a notebook, leave it next to your bed, and all the thoughts that you need to do for tomorrow, write them down. It sounds crazy, but once your brain knows it does not have to remember it because it's on paper, they literally go away. And
it helps clear your head so you can sleep better.
Correct. And you're not worried about forgetting it because it's written down.
Yes, sir.
And then like making a punch list the night before for the next day. So like when I'm really zoned in and I'm really doing great things, and I'm not religious about it, so don't make me feel like I'm perfect by no means. But like when I go to check out for the end of the day and I'm like, so you get back to the house, you're getting ready to walk into the house, you're done working for the day, take 5 minutes and write out all the things you got to do tomorrow.
My wife's done learned, if I go out and do a quote or something, I forget to write something down, she'll get a random text message and she just ignores it because I texted to her. So we have it,
Yeah.
But at least it's wrote down so you don't forget between the,
Exactly.
Then you get the driving back and then it gets tunnel vision or you stop and look at 3 more jobs on the way back.
Yep.
So, she's learned she'll get a random text message and she'll end up noting it down for me.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll come back or she'll message or later that night we'll be eating dinner. She's like, did you take care of that? She's like, you sent it to me. I didn't know what it meant, but you sent it to me.
You're like, oh, thanks for the reminder.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you just got to find a way to like get your thoughts on paper or record them, like a voice recording, whatever. So that when you lay your head at night, you can say, I don't need to worry. Like you can tell yourself, I don't need to worry about this. It's written down for tomorrow.
Yes, sir.
And that way you can kind of create that space. And because a good night's sleep, literally, I mean, guys joke now that they're starting to ask people instead of saying, how are you? They say, how do you sleep? Because if you sleep like crap, you're going to have a crappy day.
See, and I have to say this, everybody always say when you have a kid, first 6 months is hell. And then, they start sleeping at night about 8, 9 months. That's total bullshit. We're a year and almost a half now. She still doesn't sleep through the night.
Oh man, that's funny. Yeah. So we've talked a lot today about a lot of different topics, your story, your journey. I think I hear a lot. We talked to a lot of guys and like everyone's got their ups and downs, right? But like, man, the fact that you got up every morning and fought through like a year and a half of getting kicked in the teeth, that's a testament to your willpower and your vision and your passion.
Yes, sir. I don't want to give up. And that was the thing last year is when we hit everything, I told my wife, I'm almost ready to go back to work for somebody else. And she's like, you'll never be happy again.
No, she's right.
She's like, you just got to stick through it and ride it out. And I have another gentleman in the back of our neighborhood. They have a dirt pit and I've become friends with him. He's the guy I was doing the commercial burning for. And man, I've talked to him about so much stuff because he's been there. He's been in the same case as me, highs and lows, and he's offered great advice. But he's also another one of those people that, like we talked about earlier, if I needed something, I can call him and he'll help me.
Yeah.
And he always sends me little jobs here and there too. So, it works out. You got to build relationships with people. If you don't have relationships, even not just with customers, but with other contractors.
Oh, it's key. Like everything in life is based around other people.
Yes, sir.
Don't go at it alone. Like, go build a network and build some relationships. So just like you talked about, it's key. And a lot of times people that would be your so-called competitors will turn into your mentors.
Yeah.
Because they're done doing the fight. Now they're just working.
Yes, sir.
And they're more than happy to share their knowledge and experiences with you.
Yes, sir.
Because we're wired to help other people. Majority of us.
I love helping people, man. I love giving advice when I can. I've got several people that have messaged me off of like the skid steer pages and stuff, and man, we love your work. And they talk to me and ask questions about it. Oh, what attachments do you use, or what'd you do for this, or what do you think would be best for this? I don't mind answering them, man. If I can try to help them do good, I don't care if they're right here, a mile down the road from me or across the country. It doesn't matter. I don't mind answering, taking the time and trying to help them.
Yeah. Nope, I totally agree. I might be a little jaded in this. Like, our Facebook group is 26,000 strong, so I just see the same post. It feels like the same post every day. How would you bid this? How would you bid this? How would you bid this? And I'm like, and I just get to the point. I'm like, quit asking how I'd bid it, and start offering how you bid it, and get feedback for what you thought you needed to do.
And that's another thing is you get the posts, like I said earlier, where they post looking for something done. It's not so much on the skid steer pages, but like on your community pages, They post looking for something done, and they say, post your price. I never post a price. Because it becomes a pissing war between you and all the other contractors.
Yeah.
And there's always that one guy that'll do it cheaper.
Yeah.
Take the time if you want to get a price on it, PM them, offer to do an estimate, or, if it's something that's just like a flat rate, like, oh, they want to load a rock, this is what the price, this is what it's going to be, but I won't ever post a price on a page. No. It just opens yourself up for fighting, and it's not worth it,
No, absolutely. And yeah, but I always like to comment, sent you a PM, because I might have went to the request folder instead of the
Yes, sir. I do that as well.
Yeah.
So
nice, man. I'm not sure where to go now, Cody. We covered so many topics, and like, we've talked about your perseverance and your growth and how you're getting where you're going. I guess if nothing else, is like, what advice would you have for a guy that's early in the game or getting ready to start getting in the game?
Don't overextend yourself. I mean, if you want to get into it, don't be scared to start small and work your way up. I can't tell you how many times I've had a couple machines and we only put a couple 100 hours on them and figured out, hey, this machine's not for us. We've already outgrown it and stepped up. That's part of having a good relationship with like your dealers. Because like I'm on a decent term with my dealer. So if I needed to get rid of something, I can call him and he may be able to help me sell it or move it on so we can step up to something bigger.
Mm-hmm.
Don't overextend yourself. Cash flow is key. You always have to be able to have money on hand because you got to front jobs, And like I said, I've had times where we've been a little low, but I have help, when I need it.
Right.
You got to have good support, have a good network, and, just you want to try to do your best work for everybody. It doesn't matter if you don't want to do the job or not. If you bid it and you got it, you need to do it. That person deserves the same respect and the same work that you gave their neighbor.
Well said. Well said.
And, I always tell, if you go out and you bid jobs and it is neighbors, just because, oh, I bid this lot at $5,000 to clear it, rake it, and grade it, the next lot I bid at $6,000. You always tell them that, hey, no two lots are the same. He wanted to leave all of his big trees. You just had me take down 30 big trees. That changes the price right there.
Right.
And that's why it's not the same. And, customers, yeah, they're neighbors, they talk back and forth, but they learn, and once you explain to them why it's not the same, it's more of oh, okay, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So, I always explain to them, hey, it may not be the same as what your neighbors was, but this is what we can do it for. Or, oh, this lot used on a grade job. Oh, this lot used 20 loads of dirt. This lot used 50, nothing's ever the same.
No, I mean, I think focusing on the customer experience, putting yourself in their shoes and like guiding them through the process, making sure they're well communicated with, that you're spoke to in a manner that they can understand, because they don't do this work every day.
Yes, sir.
And really putting the customer experience at first, because at the end of the day, we sell service.
And I'm one of those people that, they may be asking for one thing and I'll kind of shoot myself in the foot on it because they maybe have one thought in their mind, but you look at it and you're like, that's just not feasible for what you're wanting to do. Let's change it up. And it may take money out of your pocket like that you could have made, But at the end of the day, when you throw it out to them that, hey, this is going to flow better, this is going to work better, and they look at it from your perspective as like the standpoint, they didn't spend as much, but they're way happier with what you recommended. I hate, you beat yourself up for doing that because you take money out of your own pocket when you do it. But at the same time, like we talked about earlier, it gives your customers your respect for yourself.
Yeah, and it gives them a wonderful customer experience, and at the end of the day, your goal is to provide them with what they need.
Yes, sir. And may not always be what they
goal in mind, and they don't know what that is.
So, I can't tell you. We had one job that we've done right back here, and the water flows across the back of like 8 lots, and it's just the way the lots are, and they're in a valley, and it flows across the back of them. And the one guy brought in 250 loads of dirt. And he built it up and he dammed it off. And I tried to tell him when he wanted me to do it, I said no. And I wasn't going to be the one to do it. And then when they started damming everything off, then it figured out it wasn't going to work. And then we ended up going back in there fixing it. We cut a drainage swell between all the lots, ran a pipe, so they could access the backside of the lot if it was wet season, whatever. And once we got all the neighbors on the same process, it worked out great. He lost some of his dirt, but it worked out great.
Yeah.
You can't always do exactly what they want. People say the customer's always right, but the customer's not always right. You have to be able to have the backbone to be able to tell them, hey, you want this, but this isn't what I would do. This is what I would recommend.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, also, you can save them from a lawsuit.
Yeah, it's true. We forget that we're also an educational resource for them because we do this work you guys do this work every day. How water flows, property lines, and it is important, so don't take that responsibility lightly, especially when you're getting started in this. Don't shortcut the process, build a process, follow it, educate, communicate real well. And here's my number one piece of advice for anyone getting ready to get in the game. Answer your phone and call people back. You'll be busier than you'll know what to do with.
And make sure your voicemail isn't full. The biggest thing that pisses me off is when you try to call somebody and the voicemail box is full.
And or make sure you have voicemail set up.
Or you shoot, and then you shoot them a text message and they never reply.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many times that happens.
And answer the phone with your company name. Don't say hello, because I'm like, is this C&C Landworks?
I say hello.
Yeah.
I'm bad about that.
So I'm like, did I call the right number?
That's something I can be better at doing.
Well, that's some great advice for everybody. I think we covered a ton of topics, and if you dig through this, there's a lot of little bits of nuggets that people can take away and kind of learn from, or take your experience and maybe modify their business plan to minimize some of the pitfalls. And
if you get the opportunity to be able to do something, that's different, it's off the wall, it's fun. It's not always about the money. That's one thing for me too, is I do my buddy's monster truck stuff. We go out, we build tracks, whatever. Yeah, I'm going to spend 3 or 4 days out there with him. Man, I traveled across Texas to El Paso to do shows with him. It's not always about the money. It's about just getting out, getting away, and having fun doing something.
Yeah.
And, the experience is everything.
It's the only thing we take with us is our experience and memories.
Yes, sir.
So, well, Cody, thanks so much for taking time out of your day and joining us for the podcast today. I truly appreciate it. Your story was inspiring to me, so I hope it's inspiring to others. Perseverance always wins. And I'm excited that you and your wife finally got the little Luna that you always wanted.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you for having us, and thanks for taking the time to talk to us.
Yeah, you're so welcome. All right, guys, that's another episode of the Skid Steer Nation podcast. For those of you that don't know, we also own a company called Groundbreaking Growth. You can visit it at groundbreakinggrowth.com. What we do is we offer a coaching and consulting service. So if you're new in the excavating game or you're trying to level up to the next level, you are scratching your head, you're not sure where to go, we work with you, build you a plan, help you define your business, help you develop a sales and marketing process that can help you profit your business. And then we start working on how to scale your business from culture, team management, and anything else you need to work through. So if you're interested in learning more about that process, go to groundbreakinggrowth.com. You can see kind of the layout of the course and process that we follow, and you can submit your information and schedule a call with me directly. So thanks again for listening to this episode of the Skid Steer Nation podcast. And until next time, guys, keep the hands on the sticks and the tracks on the ground.